So hello again everybody, all 35 of you that have subscribed. I'm famous. Today I'm going to tie this, a monkey, a little monkey. It's actually this one. It's a very light little fly, so it'll flutter about in the current beautifully. It's a tube fly and it's very simple to tie. So I thought it'd be a good one if you were a beginner, because I'm starting a series on fly tying for mental health. So I'm going to try and get lots of people into fly tying. More on that to follow. So let's tie this. So we're going to need some gold tubing, gold glitter tubing, but you can use clear or yellow or orange or whatever you like. And it's a little fly, so just take about an inch of the tubing and cut that. Then take your inner tubing, which is 1.8 mil, this stuff, not a bit of black floss, and you want to just burr the end of this just slightly, and then slide that in to the outer tubing and leave about 10 mil at the end here. I've pushed that in too far. Just about 10 mil so your hook can go in. And then snip off. So again about 10 mil. We're just going to tie to just past where the join is here. That gives you plenty of room to slide your cone on. So slide that onto your needle, and I'm using, the only thing I use for tubes is Semperfli 80. Usually black. I do use white occasionally, but black because I tend to cover the thread up. It's different on doubles. On tubes, I'll just use black, to be honest. So I'm binding that down really tight, and what I want to do is just cover up where the angled cut is, and that'll be the end of my fly. So I'm binding that really tight. That's why I'm using this thread, because it is so, you could tow a bus with the bloody stuff. And then I'm just taking that thread down to where the inner tube is. You'll see a little bump. And at this point I'm going to put on just a few wraps of Mylar. Mirage tinsel. I always get that wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. Mirage tinsel in medium. It's not essential that it's medium you use. You can use large. Small would take you forever. I find medium's just a nice size for most stuff. I've got angel hair everywhere. I've been tying loads of these today. So just wrap that on, and then I'm wrapping backwards just over the little hump. You can go back as far as you like, just remember your hook's going to go in there. So about half a dozen turns. I go over it a few times just to get that miraginess out of it. It looks awesome in the water, this stuff. It's like pearlescent, I think would be the word. So just tie that on, and then this is antique gold. If you don't use, it's braid, it's really, really strong. And if you don't use antique gold, this fly will not work. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. Use any gold braid. I really like braid for bodies. It's so tough, and the colours, this is holographic braid, so the colours are really lovely, but I don't know if you can see it on camera. So one full turn at the back, and just make sure you've covered all the thread, and then just overlapping turns all the way down the body. And just to where your join is, I'm giving that an extra turn there. See, I'm pulling it tight, and then get your thread over it really tight as well. And just, I like to hold the tube here while I wind this on real tight. Snip it away. There's loads covering this. So then take this is a marabou feather from a hen from the very top of the cape. You get these lovely fluffy things. There's not many of them. I do have actual marabou puffs, which they're a bit difficult to tie with. So I'm keeping this fly simple for the sake of YouTube and trying to actually teach people how to do it. So here's the better one. You can see how soft it is. You get soft hackle patches. They tend to be easier to get abroad, to be honest. I have a few excellent suppliers that can send you stuff from Sweden or Denmark really quickly, actually. So I'm just winding that hackle on, and we're going to put a lot of it on because this provides great movement. It's like an intro to Scandi style flies, this one. It's quite similar techniques, but much more simple, obviously. So just get that fluff on. I'm tying up until I basically can't tie any more on because the stem's too thick. So a good 4 or 5 turns in there, and then I like to pull it back on itself. That's lovely. And then just deliberate turns, because we've got to put the fur on and get the cone on here to finish like this, basically. So you must use good quality fox for this. I get this stuff from Sweden, of all places. It's different class to the stuff we get here. It's much thinner, it's longer, it's more translucent, etc, etc. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't represent anyone. I have no affiliations with anyone. I don't really want any, so I'm not advertising anyone. So I'm taking a good bunch of this, a good pinch, about 5 or 6 mil wide, and cut it away from the pelty bit. And then I'm just making sure that there's no real underfur in it. See, I've pulled some out there. I do have a brush for this, but I like to use my fingers. I don't know why. The brush is far more efficient. So I'm going to have this wing I've got a ruler on my desk, let's say 60mm, so about 2.5 inches or so. I quite like that. I'd say about twice the length of the tube, just to keep things in proportion as you tie up and down the sizes. So one loose turn in. Oh, snap my thread. That's looking good. So we want to just spread this around slightly to cover the top half of the tube. So if the tube's round, you want to cover a semicircle at the top of it. That's the best way I can explain it. And that lets the wing move better because the materials aren't all clumped together in the middle. And it makes it a bit more translucent, which is the key to these things. But what do I know? From my perspective, it looks better in the water when they're translucent. But I don't catch anything, so there. So right, we're just doing loose turns here. Tight turns, tight. Loose, tight. We're doing some tight turns around there, but keeping it very neat. And you want to trim this as neatly as humanly possible. And that absolutely wasn't as neatly as humanly possible. We need to build up a little lip for the cone to sit against anyway, so don't panic. I'm just checking the fly that, yeah, it looks pretty cool. So I'm just getting my thread back a little. That's tied in now, that'll never pull out. So now a little bit of angel hair, which is code 45, which is peacock. Just 6 or 7 strands. You can have it as flashy or as unflashy as you like. But angel hair's your friend here because it's so mobile. See, it moves with the materials beautifully in a way that crystal flash doesn't. Do the salmon care? Don't think so. But my philosophy on flies is that they should look lifelike. I think a salmon isn't going to inspect your fly, but if it looks like a living thing, I think it's more likely to take it. That's just the way I see it, but who cares about that? So some JC cheeks. Now, that is a monkey. That's already done. You could tie off here and put your cone on. You don't need jungle cock at all. So I'm just grabbing 2 cheeks. So 2 fairly big ones. I like them quite big on my tubes. And I don't like tying very little things into with these giant bloody shovels I've inherited. So these aren't the best jungle cock feathers. I'm coming to the end of a cape, but couldn't care less. So just tie those in up the side. Had a little technical difficulty there. So if you're feeling confident, just pull them off. So take your little cone, just apply a little tiny bit of super glue all around, especially where the jungle cock is. I like to just snip the thread off. Some people put the cone on and then cut the thread and leave a bit hanging out. That does my tits in. Because there's a bit of thread hanging off the fly. Anyway, who cares? So it's actually not the neatest one I've ever tied, but it shows you how easy it is. So all we're doing is snipping this off now, leaving 1 or 2 millimeters, and then just gently, it's gone on fire, gently melt that down, then whack it onto the vise, onto the needle, and there you have it. It's a little golden monkey. Dead easy to tie, dead easy. Just keep it neat. It's a good one to practice on. So if that was interesting, excellent. If you've any requests, just send me them via Instagram preferably. Good night and bugger off.